is a very powerful guy, with or without the Infinity Stones, but we couldn't help but notice that Thanos didn't have the colorful gems for the majority of Endgame, and was still able to take names and kick butt, which got us thinking, is it possible that Thanos was stronger in Endgame than he was in Infinity War? If so, why? So, are you ready? We sure hope so, because we're about to lay some theories on ya! The final battle in Avengers Endgame was out of this world. To experience this incredible ending to over a decade of MCU storytelling was beyond awesome. And Marvel Studios did not disappoint. But while we were all geeking out over the epic final battle, there's one thing that gets some fans a bit riled up, and that's Thanos' inconsistent power level in the last two Avengers movies. You might not have noticed it in the battle, but the Mad Titan seemed to be a lot more powerful in Endgame than he was in Infinity War. Not only that, but he was stronger on his own than he was with all 6 Infinity Stones, and that really got us thinking. Sure, Thanos did start Infinity War by easily smashing the Hulk and even beating the lightning out of Thor, but in his later fights, Thanos had a far bigger challenge against far weaker heroes, at least compared to Hulk and Thor. However, in Endgame, Thanos was able to take on Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor all at once, and he didn't even have one Infinity Stone to do so. Sure, Thor was a bit out of shape, but he did have both his original hammer Mjolnir and his new Titan-killing axe Stormbreaker. Even Captain America and Iron Man are pretty powerful on their own, yet Thanos fought all 3 at the same time and got the upper hand. While it's possible that Thanos was simply written to be stronger in Endgame to allow for a more balanced battle, we think there's something else going on here. We believe that the cosmic energy of the Infinity Stones ended up hurting Thanos in Infinity War, making him weaker as he added and used more and more stones. The cosmic radiation of the stones is the reason why he couldn't just wipe the floor with all the heroes on Titan, and why he was so much more powerful in Endgame. Confused? Excellent! Now let's use the next 10 minutes or so to make sense of it all. At this point, we all know that only a small amount of powerful beings can hold and use the Infinity Stones. Sometimes just holding one of the stones is the same as opening the Ark of the Covenant in Raiders of the Lost Ark. In 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy, we saw what happened to the Collector's pink lady slave when she touched the Power Stone, and it wasn't pretty. Even Star-Lord, who's a half-celestial, looked like his own face was a burning purple wood log when handling one. In Endgame, Professor Hulk confirmed that the radiation coming from the Infinity Stones is mostly gamma, and he clearly knows a thing or two about that. If watching Chernobyl taught us anything, radiation is bad. Like, really, really bad. We saw what happened to both Thanos and Hulk after they used the combined power of the stones, so it's clear that even if you're a really powerful being, using all the stones at once isn't good for your health. That being said, even one stone could turn you into paste. And we believe that prolonged exposure to the stones, even without using them to wipe out half of the universe, still has serious toxic effects on the user's body. The action of adding the stones to the gauntlet looked very painful, and doing something like that once would probably kill most people, but Thanos did it 6 times. And we think that this slowly weakened Thanos over time. As Thanos were adding more stones to the gauntlet, there was more cosmic energy running in his veins, exposing him to toxic gamma radiation, weakening him in the process. Not to mention the fact that Thanos was using the stones a lot during fights, and the more power he used, the heavier toll his body paid. The only thing that kept him alive was his physiology. Thanos might be called the Mad Titan, but he's actually part of the Eternals race. He's somewhat of a mutant, since he is an eternal deviant hybrid. Since Thanos carries the deviant gene, he doesn't look like an Eternal, who mostly look like normal human beings, and instead he's a purple giant with a chin that resembles a body part that's usually covered by underpants. The Eternals are extremely powerful, and with the deviant gene, Thanos' powers are boosted tremendously. We can assume that because Thanos is an eternal deviant hybrid, he was able to snap his fingers not once, but twice, and still live to tell about it. Well, at least he lived long enough for a certain hammer-wielding god to finally go for the head. See, Thor? Practice makes perfect. At the start of Avengers Infinity War, Thanos was on top of his game. The Mad Titan delivered Hulk a cosmic butt-kicking like no other. And Thanos just Titan-handled Hulk so easily that he power-slammed him back into Bruce Banner. Also, let's not forget that Thanos was able to do the same to Thor, who in Ragnarok finally unlocked his full power, and Thanos destroyed both without using any Infinity Stones. When Thanos first faced the Hulk and Thor at the start of Infinity War, he had only one stone in the gauntlet. But when the battle on Titan took place, Thanos had 3 extra stones. And the energy of so many stones must have weakened Thanos significantly. Not only was the fact that having the stones so close to his knuckles bad for Thanos' health, but since he used the power of the stones so much, he was essentially weakening himself with every fight. While Thanos had no real issues beating up the 2 most powerful Avengers, he had a much bigger challenge against far less powerful heroes during the battle on Titan. Sure, Doctor Strange is pretty powerful, so we get that, but Thanos should have easily beaten a regular man in a suit. No offense, Tony. Iron Man might be more sophisticated than the Hulk since he has his tech to help him out, while the Hulk only uses brute force, but still, that fight should have been more one-sided. Thanos should have been able to smash everyone on Titan, and his only real challenge would have been Doctor Strange. However, Iron Man was still able to draw first blood. All of this must be the reason why Thanos became more dependent on the stones as the fights went on. At first, Thanos barely used them, but over time, Thanos relied more and more on the stones to do the heavy lifting. When he finally showed up in Wakanda, he simply used the power of the stones to dispatch all the heroes who stood in his way. The fact that Thanos was able to keep going even with so many stones and then use the combined power of all the stones twice just goes to show how durable Thanos really is. And if we're going by that logic, it explains why Thanos was so much more powerful in Endgame. This Thanos wasn't only from the past, but he was also in full force. This explains why he was so much more powerful during the final battle. The Infinity Stones have not yet taken their toll on his body, so he was able to fight multiple Avengers at once. He was even able to overpower Thor, who used both Mjolnir and Stormbreaker at the same time. Thanos was pretty much unstoppable. Sure, Captain America was able to get in some good hits with Thor's hammer, but it didn't take long for Thanos to recover and beat America's butt. Once Thanos got his hands on the Infinity Gauntlet, he got exposed to the cosmic energy of the stones. And while his own abilities shielded him from the initial shock, he wasn't 100% anymore. Once again, just like in Infinity War, the cosmic energy of the stones wrecked Thanos. Another thing to remember is Thanos' armor and sword. In Infinity War, Thanos pretty much fought the Avengers in his fancy shirt. He didn't really use any weapons and mostly relied on the Infinity Stones to do the heavy lifting for him. He could have fought the Avengers in his underwear and the results would have been the same. But in Endgame, Thanos was in full armor, and he had his amazing double-edged sword. Also, let's not forget what that sword did to Captain America's shield. It cut it in half! We were led to believe that vibranium is indestructible, but Thanos cut through it like butter. Well, they did say vibranium is the strongest metal on Earth, not the whole universe, so who knows if it's even in the top 10. Okay, don't get mad at us. We know that vibranium is very powerful, but clearly Thanos has something stronger. While Thanos is extremely powerful on his own, we think that Thanos' weapons and armor gave him a serious advantage in his final battle. We're not sure what Thanos' sword is made of, but since it puts vibranium to shame, we can only assume that it connects to the Eternals and the Celestials. The MCU established that there's some connection between the Infinity Stones and the Celestials, and since Thanos has connection to the Eternals himself, it might all be connected. It's very possible that Thanos' armor and weapons are made of some ancient celestial cosmic metal. Thanos comes from Titan, an eternal colony, so it's very possible that he got his weapons and armor from there. We'll probably find out more about this metal in the upcoming Eternals movie in Phase 4. The Russo brothers called Thanos the Genghis Khan of the universe, since he's been around for a long time and traveled to many different places in the universe. So it's not too surprising that he was able to get his hands on some powerful weapons, artifacts, and more. If Thanos' sword can cut through vibranium, that means the armor itself must be able to absorb a lot more damage, something that must have given Thanos a serious edge in the fight. Kinda like Black Panther's own vibranium armor and Captain America's shield. Thanos, of course, didn't use his weapons and armor in Infinity War, and we assumed that it was because he relied on the stones. Now, as we said at the start of the video, it's possible that Thanos was stronger in Endgame simply because that's how the movie was written, and we're overthinking everything. But still, we think this theory is quite interesting, and could have served as a fun plot point. Regardless, it's pretty clear that with or without the stones, Thanos was one of the most powerful and best villains the MCU has ever seen. Do you think Thanos was stronger in Endgame than he was in Infinity War? If so, what's your theory about it? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, give us some love by leaving a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching!